Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So for this video, I want to do a quick little review for Don Quixote. Now, you guys might be wondering, why am I doing a review for Don Quixote? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because over on my Patreon, which I'll link down below, there is the top tier, which is called the God tier level for my Patreon. And if you have God tier, you get all of the perks for all of the $1, $2, $3 ones, with the additional perk that you get to choose 2 additional books for me to read in the calendar year, and I will read them and do a dedicated book review on the Bookish Drummer Discord. And the person with God tier that wanted me to read this book is Dyslexicon, so thank you, Dyslexicon, for being God tier. He wanted me to read and check out Don Quixote. So I've read it, and I'm going to talk about it. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the review. So first off, what did I think about this book? What did I rate it? Did I enjoy it? All of that good stuff if you don't want to watch the whole thing. Basically, I gave this book 3.5 stars. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would, because I will admit classics can kind of be hit or miss for me. Like, I love certain classics, like The Picture of Dorian Gray, my all-time favorite, and, you know, stuff like Frankenstein and The Scarlet Letter is pretty good. But then you get classics that I don't necessarily love. Like, I've tried to read Charles Dickens, meh. But this one, I was a little afraid for a couple of reasons. One, it's very old. It's one of the oldest novels ever written. It's from the 1600s. So I was assuming that the language was going to be kind of hard to decipher. And its length. It's one of the longest books written. It's like 1,000 pages. So I was worried on both of those counts. But like I mentioned, I gave this book 3.5 stars. It is a digestible book. Like, I listened to the audiobook, which I think helped. The narrator was Michael Page. You might recognize that name because he's the same narrator who did the Lies of Locke Lamora books, the Gentleman Bastard series. And I also think he did a lot of the Malazan books, if you did that. I didn't listen to those. But very good narrator. He's very good with bringing characters to life. And I will admit, if it wasn't for this audiobook, I don't know if I'd be able to get through it, because he really brought the story to life for me. But yeah, overall, I give this book 3.5 stars. My main positive for this book is that it was surprisingly digestible. Like, I thought this book would be kind of bogged down in kind of old language, but I guess through many translations throughout the years, like, the writing has been a bit updated, and it was fairly easy to get through and fairly easy to understand what was going on. So that's good. Also, this book is very funny at times. Like, I was very surprised at how much, like, kind of laugh out loud moments this series has. And I guess I should also talk about, like, what this book is about, because a lot of people have probably heard of Don Quixote, but they might not know exactly what it's about. It's essentially about this guy, and I don't remember his real name because Don Quixote is kind of a name he kind of makes up for himself. But it's about this guy who's very delusional, and he kind of just stays up all day and night reading about these knights of chivalry, like all these old books about knights. So he has this delusion eventually that he is a knight and that he has to go out and be chivalry, or however you say that word. But yeah, he thinks he's a knight and he has to go and do knightly things. So he, tries to rescue people who don't need rescued. He has these delusions that windmills are giants, and he goes to attack them, and he, doesn't succeed. He gets the squire involved, and he basically promises him something that he can't exactly promise, and the squire gets mixed up in all these crazy and wacky adventures. And yeah, there's just a lot of laugh out loud moments with Don Quixote and his squire. So all of the things that have to do basically essentially with Don Quixote getting mixed up in a bunch of weird and wacky incidences, very funny. Those were the highlights of the book for me. Like I mentioned, there's the famous windmill scene where like he's riding up and he sees these windmills, but in his kind of delusional state, he thinks they're giants and he goes to attack them. Very funny stuff. There's also scenes where he thinks people are being kidnapped, but they're not, and then he gets attacked and all this crazy stuff. There's this funny thing where I don't want to spoil too much if you want to go check it out, but basically those were the best parts of the book. My complaints with this book, like I mentioned, I was worried about the length of this book, and I think that's its main drawback is that it's super long, and you know, I mean, for a book written in the 1600s, I can kind of understand why it was written like that. I think if I'm correct, this was a serialized novel. Like they used to do that a lot where like, you know, writers would release like one or two chapters at a time and people would digest it that way. Like they would do that maybe like once a week. And then eventually you'd have this collection of many, many chapters in a very big book. I think that's how it was written. I could be wrong. Comment down below if I'm wrong. But yeah, so that's kind of my main complaint is that it's too long. Also, there's so many just random tangents of people telling their stories that don't even involve Don Quixote, like chapters and chapters, basically of just kind of like soap opera stuff, where I'm just like, how long is this going to keep going on? Because like Don Quixote, you know, like I loved the stuff with Don Quixote, but there's a lot of chapters in here where you'll come across a character and then that character will tell their whole life story, and I'm like, oh my god. It's just kind of like a soap opera, basically. So yeah, all of that stuff I didn't necessarily love. So that's kind of my two main complaints is that it was too long and a lot of random side tangents that kind of just detracted from the overall fun of Don Quixote himself. And without going into spoilers, the ending was very surprising. It's not necessarily how I thought the story would have wrapped up. I've never really heard, I've heard of Don Quixote before, and I kind of got the gist of what it was, but I never really heard about like how it all wrapped up. And I was kind of very surprised at the ending. It's not at all what I thought it was going to be. And I'm not quite sure if I like it or if I don't like it. I've since gone and watched like tons of reviews and recaps of Don Quixote to try to figure out what the author was going for. And there kind of seems to be mixed messages of like, it could mean this, it could mean that. I was just very surprised by how deep it got at the end. I was very surprised, and because I thought like this was just going to be like a fun kind of nonsensical book, and a lot of it is. But then you get to the end, and you're just kind of like, oh, that's how it ends. Okay, but yeah, so I'm not quite sure how to feel about the ending. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of stuff that I did enjoy about this book, but there's a lot that kind of detracted from my enjoyment. So kind of a mixed experience, but overall, I do think this book was worth my time. All right, so that is my quick little review and recap of Don Quixote. Just to kind of recap all of my thoughts and feelings about this book, it was surprisingly good. I gave it 3.5 stars, and my main complaints were that it was too long and a lot of random side stories and tangents that just didn't do it for me. But I did enjoy the character of Don Quixote and his squire getting into hijinks. Like that's kind of the main enjoyment of this book. So yeah, it was pretty good. Gave it 3.5 stars. Not an all-time new favorite, but I did have a good time with it. So thanks again to Dyslexicon, who is one of my God tier level Patreons. And like I mentioned, do have the link for Patreon down below if you want to go support me there for as little as $1 a month. And you get a bunch of perks for just the $1. But if you want to pony up some cash and do God tier level, you get to basically choose an additional 2 books for me to read and review. So I'm doing a dedicated book review for those 2 books. So yeah, thanks again to Dyslexicon, Don Quixote. Pretty good pick. I was a little afraid at first because it's a very intimidating book, but I did enjoy it. Also, comment down below if you've read Don Quixote before and whether you liked it or hated it or thought it was meh. Like, what did you think of Don Quixote? Also, did this review persuade you to read Don Quixote or maybe dissuade you to read Don Quixote? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a quick thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you are subscribed, stay subscribed for more content. I try to post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As well as every third Thursday of the month, I will be doing an off-topic video. I think the next one I'm going to be doing is my top 10 favorite drummers of all time. So stay tuned for that. Kind of on brand for the Bookish Drummer, right? But yeah, I've got Bookish Drummer Discord down below, where we've always got tons of buddy reads and read-alongs happening all the damn time. And like I mentioned, Patreon link down below. You can go support me there for as little as $1 a month, or become God tier and make me read 2 books, and I have to do dedicated book reviews for them. You can do that as well. And what else? Amazon wishlist if you want to buy me a book. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a fantastic day.